Hey, you forgot something! I hurriedly called Ethan as he headed off on an overseas business trip. But no matter how many times I called, there was no answer from Ethan. Then I stumbled upon Ethan's affair. So, the business trip was a lie, huh? Cheating on me like that? I won't forgive this. Oblivious to my vengeful thoughts, Ethan finally called me in high spirits. Just landed at the destination. So, what did I forget? You forgot your passport. What? That was the moment I began to enact my revenge. My name is Natalie. I've been married to Ethan for 4 years. We don't have children and live happily without holding anything back from each other. Ethan works for a regular company and has weekends off. I, on the other hand, work at a beauty salon and work on weekends, so we rarely have days off together. When was the last time we went out together anyway? Because of my job at the salon, I often hear about honeymoons from brides-to-be. This topic naturally comes up a lot. Today's client was planning to go to Hawaii soon. Hearing this, I felt increasingly eager for the two of us to go on a trip. A vacation sounds good. It's been a while since Ethan and I went on one. When I got home from work, Ethan wasn't back yet. It used to be that I would come home late and Ethan would have dinner ready. But recently, that hasn't been happening. Maybe work is busy. He's been doing a lot of overtime for several months. Ethan finally got home past 11 p.m. Though he should be tired from working late, he seemed in a good mood, so I had no reservations about talking to him. Guess what? My client today is going on a honeymoon to Hawaii. We went to Guam for our honeymoon, but we haven't traveled since, right? Let's plan a vacation. It doesn't have to be abroad. Even somewhere in the country is fine. My mind was already racing with vacation plans. Spending days together for the first time in a while felt exciting, but contrary to my enthusiasm, Ethan didn't seem too keen. I'm gonna be busy with work for a while. Why don't you go alone? Then you don't have to coordinate with my schedule. I was so disappointed by Ethan's response that I lost all enthusiasm for the trip. It's pointless alone. I want to go as a couple. I held back my desire to say so. Whether it's a difference in enthusiasm or what, Ethan had practically zero interest in going on a trip. After seeing Ethan's reluctance, I decided to let it go. For a while, I found myself scrolling through travel sites, still not entirely over it. Should I just go alone, like Ethan suggested? The thought crossed my mind, but I couldn't leave Ethan behind. During these low-spirited days, Ethan suddenly said to me, I have a business trip overseas during the New Year holidays. What? I blurted out, shocked by the sudden news. Ethan looked irritated at my loud reaction. Look, I know you want to travel, Natalie, but this is work, not a vacation. No complaints, okay? I haven't even said anything yet. Annoyed at Ethan's words, I snapped back. I'm just surprised you said overseas business trip. You've never had one before. Besides, aren't most places closed during the New Year holidays? My hard work has been recognized, and that's why I was chosen. The trip is to France. Only New Year's Day is a holiday there. Many businesses are open, as usual. Is that so? When do you leave? I'll head to France before Christmas to prepare, and then start work. Sure enough, after doing some research, France only observes New Year's Day as a holiday. December goes until the 31st, and many businesses resume on January 2nd. So we won't spend the New Year holidays together, huh? The New Year holidays were our only chance to relax together throughout the year. Now, not only do we not get a vacation, but we also won't spend the holidays together. Feeling lonely, an idea popped into my head. How about I come with you? Then we can spend time together. I can go sightseeing while you're working. I thought it was a good idea, awaiting Ethan's reply. However, his next words instantly dashed my hopes. Absolutely not! This is a business trip! Who brings their spouse along? Ethan's irritation was evident as he raised his voice. Without a word, he stormed off to the shower. What's his deal? He doesn't need to be that angry. Even after his shower, Ethan remained in a bad mood. It became awkward to bring up anything about travel or business trips. After that, our conversations dwindled. His cold attitude led me to harbor a growing resentment towards him. Time passed, and by late December, the cold was harsh. Ethan, who was scheduled for his business trip to France, seemed a bit too excited. Sure, it's a business trip, but it's also overseas. I can understand his excitement. But he should put himself in my shoes. I'll be spending Christmas and the New Year holidays alone. His enthusiasm only added to my irritation. Ethan happily pats me on the shoulder, seemingly unbothered by my mood. Hey, I'm going on a business trip starting tomorrow. Take care of the house for me, will ya? Sure, got it. Don't get mad. I promise I'll bring you back some souvenirs. I'm gonna hit the sack now. Got an early morning tomorrow. With that, Ethan quickly heads off to the bedroom. The nerve of him, acting all excited. He'd better bring me a ton of souvenirs. The next day, I make a long list of souvenirs and wave goodbye to Ethan. My phone rings right after I finished up the household chores. The message is from my brother, Alexander. Ethan's on a business trip, huh? Why not come back to Mom and Dad's for the holidays? Alexander is still living at our parents' place and has a rather sporadic work schedule. It bothers our parents that he can't hold down a stable job, but I've always loved Alexander. He's the first person I go to when I'm in a bind. So I start considering his idea of going back to our parents' house. I didn't have any plans anyway, and spending New Year's there could be a nice change. Should I start looking at flight schedules? I sit down on the sofa and start checking flight times on my phone. Just then, something catches the corner of my eye, and I let out a startled, "What?" Ethan's passport is sitting right there on the table. I immediately call Ethan, but no matter how many times I try, I can't get through. "You forgot something!" I send several messages, but no reply. I have no choice but to go to the airport myself. Panicked, I call Alexander for help. "Alexander, Ethan forgot his passport. Can you go ahead to the airport and make sure he doesn't leave? I'm on my way too." "Roger that." I send Alexander the details of Ethan's flight to France and rush to catch a train. I keep trying to contact Ethan during the ride, but to no avail. Then a message from Alexander arrives, and its contents leave me stunned. "I just got on a train and Ethan is here. What's going on?" Attached to Alexander's message is a photo. When I open the file, there is Ethan, holding hands with an unfamiliar woman on the train. In an instant, I understood everything, and my body shakes with fury. So the business trip was a lie. I won't forgive him. He will regret betraying me. I immediately contact Alexander. "Alexander, forget what I said earlier. Instead, follow Ethan and take lots of pictures of him and that woman." "Roger that." Alexander must have realized what was going on. He didn't question me further and immediately started tailing Ethan. Later, I met up with Alexander at the airport. According to Alexander's phone, there are multiple photos of Ethan looking cozy with another woman. Contrary to what Ethan said, Alexander's investigation revealed they aren't headed to France, but New Orleans. It's a high-end hotel in New Orleans with great reviews. It turns out Alexander secretly overheard Ethan's conversation on the train. Ethan was loudly discussing details while looking at a travel magazine, so Alexander quickly figured out the destination. At that moment, Alexander asked me, "So, what are we going to do? This is clearly a cheating trip, right?" "We're going in." "What?" "We're going to crash their little getaway. You think I'm gonna let them enjoy their trip?" For a second, Alexander looked surprised, but then quickly smiled. "Alright, if that's the plan, let's go to New Orleans right now." So we decided to follow Ethan to New Orleans. After a 3-hour flight, we arrived in New Orleans. We then hurried to the high-end hotel, led by Alexander. The phone rang, just as we arrived at the hotel. Could he have realized we were following him? I quickly answered the call, but it turned out to be a needless worry. "Hey, Natalie! Sorry, I was on a flight and couldn't check my messages. Just landed in France. What's this about something I forgot?" Ethan sounded carefree over the phone. He was lying, and he didn't know I was close by. I bluntly told him the truth. "You forgot your passport." "What?" I immediately went on the attack. "How did you get to France when I have your passport right here? Did you enter the country illegally? You think I want to be with a criminal?" Ethan started to fumble. "I realized I forgot the passport, so I had a new one made at the airport." My anger grows at Ethan making excuses. Unable to contain my emotions, I yell into my phone. Are you kidding me? I've never heard of a passport getting issued instantly at the airport. Who do you take me for? Calm down, Natalie. It was a joke. I actually have 2 passports. What? 2 passports? Quit your nonsense. Ethan went silent, but my fury wouldn't cease. You thought that lie would work? I know everything. You're in New Orleans right now, aren't you? I'm on a business trip to France. You're still lying? I told you I know everything. I know you're in New Orleans on a cheating trip. What? With that, the call suddenly ended. He must have hung up, realizing things looked bad. But it was too late. A few minutes later, a message came from Alexander. They're here, in the front lobby. If Ethan knew I was aware of his affair, he would surely scramble to change his accommodation. That's why we waited for him in the hotel lobby. Upon seeing Alexander and me, Ethan looked extremely shocked. Right behind him was the woman from the photos, the same woman he was having an affair with. I marched right up to Ethan and stood my ground. Ethan's face was a picture of surprise. Natalie, this isn't what it looks like. My business trip was suddenly relocated to New Orleans. I'm not doing anything shady, I swear. Who in their right mind would believe you now? How do you explain the woman standing behind you? This girl is, a junior colleague. She's on this business trip with me. I was utterly disappointed to hear Ethan still making excuses, even in a situation like this. I opened the messages Alexander had sent me and held them up in front of Ethan. So what about this? How do you explain holding hands if you're just colleagues on a trip? When did you get that? I glared at Ethan. It's pointless to argue now. I have evidence, so you can't run away from this. I heard Ethan gulp right in front of me. Then I turned my attention to the woman he was with. What are your plans with my Ethan? You know he's a married man, right? Suddenly, the woman became visibly shaken and started blaming Ethan. Wait a minute, Ethan! You said your wife would never find out. That's why I agreed to be with you. No, Ellie, that's not the point right now. It absolutely is the point. Your wife has been giving me terrible glares. It's as if I'm the bad one here. For the record, lady, Ethan is the one who came on to me. Ellie, as she was called, continued to insist. Ethan is entirely to blame, without offering any apologies. The thought that Ethan had prioritized Ellie over me was unbearable. Overwhelmed with anger, I momentarily forgot we were in a public lobby and raised my voice. Don't give me that. It's not about who's wrong. Both of you are to blame. Ethan, you may have initiated it, but you, Ellie, went along with it knowing he was married. I'll make both of you regret this. Ethan's face turns pale at my words. Ellie, on the other hand, tries to act strong all of a sudden. Regret? What can a cheated-on woman do? What? You see, Ethan chose me. Natalie, no matter what happens to you, you'll be the one left alone. Ethan and I are going to be together soon. There's no way I'm gonna be miserable. Right, Ethan? You said you were leaving Natalie soon. Ellie says, staring back at Ethan. Ethan then looks back and forth between Ellie and me, then starts speaking, seemingly having made up his mind. I won't marry you. The only one I love is Natalie. What? I just found you convenient to hang out with because Natalie and I have been missing each other. Today is the end of this relationship. I'm going back to Natalie. Upon hearing Ethan's words, Ellie's face fills with despair. Ignoring her, Ethan starts to apologize to me. Natalie, I'm really sorry. My judgment was just off. I won't cheat ever again. I've just been feeling lonely because we've been missing each other. So? From now on, I'll only think about you. If you want, we can go on a trip right now. Just please forgive me. He thinks an apology will fix everything? His reasoning makes me even angrier. A trip now? Are you kidding me? Why didn't you go on a trip with me in the first place? You prioritized Ellie over me. I will never forgive either of you. I'm divorcing Ethan, and in the divorce court, I'll demand more than the standard settlement. What? Why? We've been together for 4 years. Can't you cut me some slack? You've been together with me for 4 years, yet you betrayed me. About the settlement money. Are you going to hire a lawyer? You don't need to. We can start over. There's no need to waste money. At this point, my anger with Ethan goes beyond infuriation to sheer disbelief. That's when Alexander, who had been observing us, starts to speak. Alrighty then, bro. I know a good lawyer. Took care of him back in the day. He'll probably give you a good rate. Nice one, Alexander. Alexander and I squeezed Ellie's contact info out of her and left the two stunned individuals behind. Later, I hired the lawyer Alexander recommended. Just like he said, I was able to claim more than the usual amount of compensation from Ethan and his affair partner. My divorce from Ethan went smoothly, and I returned to single life. As for Ethan, he and Ellie both ended up quitting their jobs after Ellie exposed the affair. Now Ellie is suing, claiming she was deceived by Ethan. And Ethan, in turn, is claiming that Ellie's exposure of the affair is defamation. Both are caught up in a complicated situation, seemingly draining their pockets by the day. But to be honest, I couldn't care less. They're experiencing the consequences of their actions. Serves them right. As for my brother, Alexander, he's decided to take a job at a detective agency, thanks to this whole ordeal. Being a detective is my true calling. I'm going to make it last this time. He's quite ambitious. Time will tell how that works out. For now, I hope to live a life where I won't have to rely on Alexander's detective skills ever again.